Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about one of my eBay finds I happened to find cruising around drunk on the interwebs. So I got this whole console here for 150 shipped. Thought that was a great deal for a brand new console. It's out of a 2024 Camaro, and we're going to take that and adapt it into a 1968 Chevelle. Here's the console. The main selling point for this for me was that it included this little guy, which I needed the shift boot. Most of them on eBay don't have that, so that's great. I didn't know that this is a weighted shift knob. Looks like a guy that's cold after swimming, but that may make it on the car. I don't know, kind of like that it's weighted. Got these panels on the front, which normally don't come with it, so that's great. These cars have two little air vents right here, which I may snag one of those from an eBay auction if I happen to be drinking again and see if I can get my vents right here instead of bolted to the bottom of the dash like I have now. Here's the most important test. Got it installed about where it's going to live. Got to make sure that I fit in here. Everything's going to be all right. I'm a little close with my foot right here, but it's also hitting on the inside right here. I went with a console center hump, 4-speed console center hump, so I'm trying to keep the mouth a little narrow, but it's still hitting on this console because it wasn't made in 1968. Well, here we are with the front mounting bracket. Getting a little low on my scrap steel, so I used a rocker piece. Cut that down, got a little angle on it. Made a flat piece basically with some 90s on it, put some rib nuts in there. What that does is that's going to catch these two mounting bolts, mounting holes here. Got some 1/4-20s that are going to go through the factory locations and be covered up later. And then I got two holes in the bracket, which is going to bolt down to transmission tunnel. There's a lip right here where I decided to put this that's double thick sheet metal. So I drilled it, put some rib nuts in there. It should be super strong. Just had a little bit of wiggle to it. So I took some of that same material I've been using, that 1/4-inch thick, and just laid me a piece over and tacked it on there. Stiffened this right up. Had I had more scrap in my bin, I probably would have just taken a piece of 1/4-inch, bent me a 90 and drilled a hole, but I'm using what I got with scrap, so I just strengthened what I already made, and it'll bolt in there and keep that front end in place. Oh no, not shaping up to be that bad. Got just enough room on either side here that I can get my seat belts through. Got a little surprise on that coming up, but they're going to be right in here. Got plenty of room for seatbelt things. So basically, this is going to sit in here like a so. Maybe. Yep. Anyway, it'll sit just like that. This will bolt to the tunnel, which I already drilled some holes and put some rib nuts in there. That'll bolt down, and then I can just run some, throw that bolt down the ground. I can just run some nuts and bolts through the bottom here to secure that. So front mount, rear mount, done-ish. Again, I'm using scrap. This was a motor mount plate, so it's really thick, but I feel like it'll provide me with the stability I need when I'm putting my big old arm piece on here. It's not going to move around. So let's throw this in the car. So that's going to bolt in here, and it'll be very stable once it's tightened down. If I need to adjust my height or whatever, I can always stick a nut or a washer under here if I want to bring this up a little bit. And that's the mount. This is what it's going to look like sitting in there. Once I get everything tightened up, I can drop this little guy in there. And there you go. Cover everybody's favorite part. Wiring. Up here, I'll flip you over real quick. You've got your hazard button, which is a momentary. It does not click and lock on. You got your traction control, momentary. Mode control button, which is momentary up or down. Weird thing I found about this button is it does not just pass ground through the switch. There's a resistor for up and a different value resistor for down. So unless you're running a BCM, you can't use that. That sucks. Parking brake switch, though, is a reversing polarity motor switch, which I think is awesome because you don't see that a lot. So you can run that for power locks, power windows, any kind of motor you want to flip-flop. So that's cool. If you're not wanting to add power window switches, both door panels, you can run it here, or power door locks. Then we got the cigarette lighter. Inside there was a media deal. It's, do I have it? Nope, it's on the other side. It's 2 USBs and a SD card reader, which when I gave it the appropriate power and ground, it didn't work. So I'm assuming it has to be ran through another module or something. So we're going to put something else on there. So cigarette lighter obviously is the biggest one here. You can find out right off the bat, get you some wires out of the way. That one is your black goes to a ground from that and from pretty much everything else. And then that ground gets a little junction here and goes out toward the front. So I tapped all my grounds into that. And actually I ran mine out the back, and I'm going to ground that to the mounting bolt that I made for the rear mount. So that's going to ground to the body. Purple wire obviously is going to be your cigarette lighter. So however you want to wire that, if you're going to do switched or constant. I ran all my stuff to the factory. You can see it here. It's for the Chevelle. This is the console harness that they give you. So I ran everything into that connector, and that plugs in up top to, I already have constant 12 volts and dash lights and a door trigger switch, which one day I'll end up using when I put some lights in here. But for now, that's going to give me my 12 volts. My cigarette lighter is only going to see a little battery car charger anyway, or a phone charger, so not that big a deal. These 2 switches here, I mean, I can give you the pinouts and you can do what you want with them. I just ran the outputs of those to a WeatherPack 6-pin connector. So when I decide later I'm going to hook that stuff up, well, there it is, and it's already labeled, and it's just sitting under the console. All your illumination wires for your switches are these solid yellows. I'll run those to my dash lights, so that comes on. Your wireless charger here is the one I couldn't figure out. It has purple for power, black for ground, obviously. Then the green wire has a funky connector coming out of the BCM that looks like it's a power referenced signal. But then it goes into the pad, and then the pad is grounded on that line, separate from the ground that also comes in there. So I haven't figured out what that is yet. I'm thinking that since it's a referenced voltage, it might be a 5-volt signal, or maybe it's something that the BCM sees somewhere else and turns on, and that's some sort of a LAN signal or something. But that's way too much effort for what I'm doing today. So it's going to be back there. It's going to be plugged in, but I ran the 2 wires up here to the front anyway. So if later I figured out, it's just, I plug that in without having to take everything back out. The one thing that does frustrate me that I thought was going to be the easiest, spin you around to this, is this lighted LED tube. It's almost like a fiber optic deal. It lights up the cup holder, which should just be an LED chip on here, which it is, but your LED chip comes with this weird lighting module. So it's got, on the input side, it's got a ground, it has a 5-volt input signal, and then it has a 5-volt varying voltage that goes to it to change the color. That all gets ran through its own little network on another module, the lighting doodad module. I'm not running any of that. So I've just left that connected in the harness there until I figure out later what I do with it. These are kind of new. I'm sure someone's going to figure out a way to maybe I can just add an LED right there, because it has to illuminate, fiber optics. It's got to be at the edge of this and then illuminate this plastic doodad, or I might just leave it how it is. I don't know. I thought that was going to be the simplest of all of this, and why I actually went in here for wiring. So anyways, that's my wiring. Let me know if you have any questions with this. I can drop the few diagrams that I found online in like a description or comments or something. Very hard to find because it's just so new. So I'll keep digging. Usually I find these stuff. I just have to use the right keywords. But let's get this in. Well, here she is installed. I didn't put this piece on here. It's drying. I don't like chrome glinting off in my eyes and blinding me when I'm driving, so I'm going to paint that black and put it on. The shifter boot here slid over my base, and it's going to clip into the, I don't know, shift bezel thing, so that's cool. Turn my lights on here, and you can see my lights illuminate. This little guy does not. Still got to figure that out. But overall, console's in place. May have to deal with this down here near my foot. Haven't decided yet. Might take a drive or two, see what's going to go on with that. Might just heat this up and bend that in just a little bit, but that'll be fairly simple to do. Overall, pretty solid deal. Ain't going nowhere. Arm fits right down there, so that's good. And shifter position is, you know, great. If you want to know what shifter that is, that's the brake pedal that came on the car. And you can still see the, somewhere in here is the brake rod. So I just flipped it upside down, cut the pedal off, welded a bolt to it, and you know, there's my shifter. So works great, fits my arm perfect. Console sits there, nice spacing between the seats. I did take the media hub out, so I have a hole right here. I'll figure out how to fill that later, but that's where my CAN cable comes through for the Holly, so that's just gonna tuck down in there. Got me a cup holders, nice little armrest. We'll figure out the switches. Got my call it cigarette lighter where I put my charger in there. And eventually we're gonna do, next project's gonna be getting my vents that are over here and there down into this piece that I ordered. So anyways, pretty simple install, putting a 6th gen Camaro console in here once you get it figured out. If you got any questions, please let me know. I'll pass along anything I can help you with. And thanks for watching. Like, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you next time.